The following interview is part two of an amazing conversation I had with out of body explorer Ray Fiala, and his experiences are profound and quite transformative. And in this particular interview, we talk about experiences out of body, meeting those who have died and crossed over to the other side. So let's talk about some of the other experiences that were bigger classes where you've moved forward into more deeper zones of exploration and revelation. So I
Oh,
know that you've got a few big ones, especially when it
yeah.
comes to connecting with those who've passed.
Yeah, those were my best ones. And it's not like I did anything. Amazingly, it felt like a shared experience with someone who passed away, and it happened right after too. So it absolutely feels like that energy connection doesn't dissipate. And I've seen it with my own eyes in one of those experiences. Should I just get into that one? Should I get into the one?
That would be amazing. I mean, yeah.
It it took me 3 years to be able to talk about it before I can even get through it. So now that I can, absolutely, let's go straight for the throat. You know, that was 2017, June 23rd, 2017, about 11:30 at night. It was a Friday night. It was a Friday night. I'm waking up to do a wake back to bed. Pretty normal night. And in that time, I'm on Facebook, only one message. I check it, and I had found out my ex-girlfriend had passed away. And that really sucked. That was like the most serious relationship I ever had. Now we had moved on. We were friendly with each other. So, but it still sucks. I had some thinking I had to do. I grabbed a cigar, went outside to go and have a smoke and think. And while I'm in the backyard having my little pity party, it dawned on me, wait a minute. I'm doing a wake back to bed right now. And if there's anything to this out of body stuff, and if energy never ends, then theoretically, wouldn't I be able to make contact? On paper, it looks right. I had become advanced enough at this point, not to toot my own horn, but there wasn't much I hadn't experienced except for like a visitation and that stuff. It's in the literature once in a while, but wasn't until recently I found books about it. I had no idea there were books about it, but apparently I'm not the only one who's had this happen to them.
Yeah,
um
and also you had it with your dog. That was probably
yeah,
you because
yeah,
that was a
that was
little visitation dream.
yeah, that was different. I got my dog. It's like a runner-up prize. Why couldn't I get a human being that missed me?
Yeah,
Where
he
was
was
my
poor.
grandpa? Where was my grandma? I got a dog. It's like everybody gets a trophy. It's my participation prize. um, no, but so that one night, um, I'm thinking, well, if anyone can do this, it's me. If it can be done, I can do it. But I was even skeptical that I could, because I'd never had anything like that happen before with a person, and she had just passed. I don't know what the rules are about that, if there are any. I didn't Honestly, I didn't expect to get any results. What I expected was maybe to get a lucid dream where I can conjure her and say, "Wow, you almost look real." That's about the extent of what I thought I could do, really. But on paper, it looked like, if this experience can happen, I should be able to see what people are talking about when they say visitation. So that night I did call it kind of an early night. I didn't stay up for a whole 4 hours. I eventually went to lay down. And now at this point, I had just had a 4 month dry spell. 4 months, Dree. That was the longest dry spell I ever had since this began. Well, except maybe from like 14 to 21, but since this became like a part of my life now, a dry spells suck because you just want another experience and you can't have them.
Yeah.
Right here, it's right here, and you can't have it. It dangles in front of you. Now that night, I did hit the vibrational state. And I'm like, okay, build it up, build it up. I like to build up the vibrations. So the more I feel the vibrations, the least resistance I feel getting out. Getting out just feels natural when the vibrations are like hardcore. Um, but have you ever been in that state and all of a sudden had something grab you and pull?
Oh yeah. It's good fun. I'm like, you got it.
I swear that's happened to me before from the feet, but it happened again that time. So I always have to wonder what grabbed me, what pulled. I was so mad at myself because as soon as I felt that, it was so sudden. And as soon as I felt that, I quit, opened my eyes, and I was like, damn it, I was right there. What if it takes another 4 months? But that next night, it finally happened. I repeated pretty much everything except I put her ring on my finger. I still have our memory box, and I put the ring on. I think mediums, mediums like to have something personal from someone if they're trying to make contact.
Yeah.
This was my first go around, and it was just a lucky guess. I figured it would help, and it did. It sure did. So now that night was interesting. I need to smoke for this. I've never gotten this far through this conversation. I've always had to been like, I got to stop talking now. I've only tried 3 times. So it took me 3 years to talk about this. Okay, so that second night, I hit the vibrational state again. That's 2 days in a row. You know how rare it is to have these consecutively like that? And it happened. I got out. And I'm actually facing this wall here. Let me look in I could barely see myself up there. I'm facing this wall. And I'm looking at my hands and I'm looking at the wall and I'm like, I did it. I did it. I'm out of body. And my body's right here in the bed, confirmed. And I'm thinking, the first thing I thought was time is of the essence.
Yeah.
Hurry up and do something before I lose the experience. I was so excited. I was so like, what do I do? What do I do? I forgot about Julie. I forgot about my ex-girl. I totally forgot about her. I'm sorry, I forgot to pick you up, And so I remember thinking, okay, time is of the essence. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I thought, I'm just going to walk right through the wall, go right between the houses, and just launch right up to space. Might as well fly.
Yeah.
And before I can take one step, I felt a hand go through my hair. And this is back when I used to still slick my hair. This was 2017. I shave it now to kill my identity, trying to stifle my ego. But I felt a hand go through my hair and kind of scratch the back of my head. And this has never happened during an out-of-body experience. Usually nothing touches you.
Wow.
And plus I'm alone in the house. Nothing should be touching no one. And I turned around really cautiously, not knowing what I was going to see. And I felt a female energy of a loving energy. I felt it female. So I remember thinking, it's an angel. An angel is coming to me. And there was a disturbance in the atmosphere in front of my bedroom door. Same place where I got taken down. Same place where so much stuff has happened to me was in front of that bedroom door. And we ain't done with that door yet. And there was a disturbance in the air. And it was almost like a smoke, like a wispy energy, like a grayish, silvery, no, not grayish, like a silverish, glowing energy disturbance. And as it got bigger, I can still see my room. And I don't know if she came out of that light or if that light became her, but suddenly it was a short female. And I'm still not caught on yet to Julie. I'm thinking it's an angel. Yeah. It's taking the form of a female and it's approaching me really gracefully, like wispy. But now I can see her face. And the room just went dark. I can no longer see my body in the bed. I can't see my bed. I can't see my room. I'm just in darkness. And it's just me and her face to face. And she's just giving me this look like, I have a secret I can't tell you. You know, just real playful. I know it all, and you don't. Haha. It was just like that, and that's her personality. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I actually got a little bit closer to see the detail. And I'm thinking to myself, visitations are real. And I'm coming closer to her, and her skin looked like porcelain, and she was glowing. She looked like glowing porcelain, what very white.
Wow.
And I just I'm looking at her, and I'm trying to think. I had a few questions already previously established, like, hey, was it like we talked about? Because we've talked about this a lot, you know, and all these questions I wanted to ask her. Who was there to meet her? What's it like? Is it like we talked about? Can you hear me when I talk to you? Stuff like that. All those questions suddenly felt very childish. And the only thing I could bring myself to ask was, are we okay? And she nodded and looked at me and said, we are okay. Her lips never moved. And I heard her voice in my head. I mean,
Yeah.
I heard her voice somehow, wherever it was. I heard her voice. Her lips never moved. And now she's giving me this look. She's just gauging my reaction. And I'm, you know, this whole thing just keeps flooring me. Now I got this on top of that. And I got a little bit closer, and I was like, okay, so you have no resentments? And she, almost with a chuckle, she said, I have no resentments. Almost with a laugh, like, don't be silly, like, I have no resentments. And again, that was telepathic. And we're just looking at each other, and one last time she runs her hand through my hair, and then my eyes open.
Wow.
And that was part one. That was part one. And when I had that experience, I was like, first of all, I'm never going to tell anyone this. This is like so personal, and no one's ever going to believe me anyway. And come to find out, when I tried explaining it to her cousin Nikki, Nikki and I had a good long talk about this, and I couldn't get through it. I don't think I ever did get to the ending. I just had to keep stopping. I had to keep stopping. Well, it was like 2 weeks after it happened, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So so I figured I could never tell anyone about this. But on the other hand, I was able to prove to myself that it can be done. And if I could do it once, I could do it again and again and again. And, you know, her and I, we were supposed to try again later on, let her get her wildness out of her system. We both agreed we were going to try this again, but not when she was so rambunctious, you know. I figured, well, now with all that silly stuff out of the way, now, you know, who knows where this practice can take me? Because all this time I've been having these out of body experiences. I had a couple profound ones, but most of the time it's parlor tricks. So that was part one. I journaled it as fast as I could.
Amazing.
And um that was a Sunday morning. Now it took 2 weeks to have another experience, and it was the morning of her funeral. That was my next time. I was successful. Here come the vibrations. Bam, like lightning through me. This is it. Get out. You only have that brief moment to get out. I got out, and this time there was no forgetting. This is the first thing on my mind. And I'm calling out for her, and I'm like, hey, where are you? Hello, Julie. Hello. Nothing. Not even that Grim Reaper, you know. I mean, hell, give me him or something. I was so completely alone in the moment. I'm like, what do I do? And again, I'm thinking time is of the essence. If something don't happen, I'm going to lose this opportunity. And I remembered right then, she used to be really big on energy work, because she was a witch. She was a gray witch. And I've seen her do black magic and all that. So I guess that means gray, when your intentions are good, but if someone messes with your friends, they're going down, you know. Like, put it like your free will over someone else's. You're going to protect your friends, And whoever hurt your feelings, we're going to put together a little voodoo bag and bury this in the yard. I've seen her do that kind of stuff. But I've seen her do energy work with me before. We'd be laying in bed and she'd barely put her hands right over my chest and barely, not even touching me, just like an inch away. And I'd be like, what the hell are you doing? And she's like, shh, it's called energy work. I'm creating an energetic bond between us that will survive even past death. And then she used to talk like that all the time. She used to write me love letters like that all the time. You know, death, death, you know, her and death. And she was always, she created an energy connection between us. And she said it was going to survive through death. So that memory, I got that memory while I'm standing next to my bed about to, you know, thinking, well, what am I going to do? Well, once I remembered her doing energy work, it was like a rope came down from the corner of my room. And it wasn't really a rope. It was like a handful of wet spaghetti, a bunch of spaghetti noodles. It looked like fiber optics or something. And each piece of spaghetti was like a different color. It was multicolored strands that just fell from the ceiling. Again, this is another first. I've never heard anything like that in the literature. So this is a first. This has to mean something. So I decided to follow it like a trail of breadcrumbs. I just remember following it. And again, you get that internal speed, high speed sensation, almost like you're getting whooshed around. And then when it stopped, I found myself standing in a house that looked like a West Side Jacksonville house, very stereotypical West Side Jacksonville house, kind of run down, old, you know, countryside of town. And there was nothing special about it. And I'm like, let's see where this takes us. And there were other people in the house that were friends of hers that had just recently died. And there was a lady in the living room sitting back in a recliner, and she had like a breathing apparatus, like a breathing machine. I'm thinking I'm thinking she had it because maybe she identified with it so much in her human life that, you know, some of us bring stuff, and that was part of her identity, I guess. And at the time, I swear I thought I knew who it was. Now I have no clue. I couldn't tell you now in the physical 3D world. And I said, is Julie home? You know? And she said, she's around here somewhere. Okay, well, we got confirmation, you know? I'm starting to check everywhere in the house and I can't find her. And once again, I thought of the energetic connection, and there it was again, like a follow this line.
Wow.
Like setting a waypoint on a video game, going through a city, you set your waypoint and then you just follow that line. It was like that. And it took me out the side door into her backyard, and I saw her. I saw her standing with someone who was a really skinny, pale guy. And at the time, the first thing I thought, heroin overdose. I know one of her friends died from like the same thing that she did. Since then, that rumor fell apart. I can't get confirmation on who that was or what happened. I heard that rumor, and when I asked that guy about it later on, he's like, oh, I don't remember that. I'm like, well, you told me her best friend died the day before of the same thing. Anyway, not important. She's standing there talking to someone that I perceived as a fresh overdose. And they're just in the backyard talking, and all of a sudden she sees movement. She looks at me and her jaw dropped. She started walking right to me. And she's like, what are you doing here? You know, like, you're not invited, you know, and so she's coming up to me. She's like, what are you doing here? And I said, I've come to look for you. Thinking, oh, she's going to like that. She's like, well, how did you find me? I said, the energetic connection. Look, there's still a piece of it left right between you and me right now. And she saw it, and she went like that, and it disappeared. And I've never seen it again. She took it away. You know, I think there's this unspoken rule that when we pass over, we realize the importance of not making contact all day long with our loved ones. It's like we have this new understanding that they'll be along shortly. Let them live their life. Don't be bothering them. I think her leaving that energetic connection was a loose end maybe she forgot about.
Right. And yeah, there are boundaries and etiquette, like you said.
Yeah, I guess so. Even out there. So right now, when she took that away, suddenly I felt like I'm not welcome here. Which was a weird feeling because I came all this way. She can come to me, but I can't show her I can come to her. Figured I'd surprise her. You know, she surprised me. Figured I'd return the favor. Yeah, she was surprised all right. And and I'm thinking to myself, I'm kind of thinking to myself, well, I wouldn't have to be here if you communicated better from the other side, you know? And I remember saying, I translated it as, well, hey, don't you hear me? You know, when I talk to you? And she said, I've been getting your messages. And she nodded upwards over her right shoulder. And I looked up in the sky, and one star in broad daylight, one star got much brighter and then dimmed down. And what that told me was the deceased have like a messaging system. They collect, they can't collect coins or stamps or Hot Wheels. They can collect our messages. They can kind of record them and save them. And so I could tell that meant something to her. But she's been saving my messages like it would, like there was no importance to get back to me. And you know, before long, the environment started to destabilize, and I started getting that pullback feeling. And I said no, and I stomped my foot down, and I spun around as fast as I could, like a Tasmanian devil. I was actually trying to stabilize the environment.
Yeah.
I forgot that's a technique in lucid dreaming to actually change your environment. But no, for me, my environment stayed completely stable. When I stopped spinning, her and that skinny white guy was already kind of standoffish. But when I stopped spinning, both of them took a step back and they were both like, whoa, you know, like, how did he do that? You know? And and now I know I'm running short on time. And I said, yeah, that was when I said, you know what? I'm getting pretty good at this. And she was like, you really are. You know, like too good for my own good. That was the sound of her voice. Like almost like she was afraid for me, like, yeah, you really are. And I know it's about to end. And I said, well, hey, do you have any messages for anyone? Today is your funeral. When I get back to my body, I'm going to see your mom. I'm going to see your dad. I'm going to see your daughter. And I think I pulled on a heartstring. She didn't say nothing, and then the whole thing just was like way in front of me, and I was moving backwards so fast, and I couldn't. That was the first time I ever prolonged the snapback.
Yeah. By doing that technique, by going
Yeah,
spinning around and
yeah. I was trying to stabilize the environment, but that's actually a no-no. Because knowing what I know now, if you're in a lucid dream and you want to change the environment, you spin around. But no, I was able to stabilize. What I was thinking I was doing was drilling my foot into the ground. Have you ever been way out in the ocean and the tides that you can feel the tide pulling you, and you
yeah.
can feel like you stick your feet in the muck and you feel yourself being dragged.
Yeah.
I kind of stuck my foot in the muck, in the land, and kind of drilled myself in. I kind of screwed myself in, you know, so I wasn't going nowhere. It helped for a minute. That's the only time that's ever worked. When you get the snapback, it's over.
I know. That's fascinating, actually, that you're able to do that. It goes to show that intention goes a long way. Our willpower is quite a driver for many a thing. That's
Willpower and a sleeping body. and,
a sleeping body.
and don't fall asleep. A lot of times you could be in the middle of an experience, barely open one eye, look at your digital clock, close your eye, and still be in it. So I can still keep track of what time it is. And usually I'm always getting lucky around 7 in the morning on Sundays. That
Oh,
seems to be my time. It doesn't matter if I lay back down at 3 in the morning or 6:30 in the morning. When it's 7 o'clock, it's my time. That just seems to be it.
that's fine. Yeah, that's probably because you've had a good night's sleep and you've had your body's everything's rested, so you're able to hold your awareness um, aware and awake while your body can just go back into sleep again.
Uh, yeah, and that and coffee. I always drink a little coffee.
This is what fascinates me, right? So I know, like with caffeine, it can interrupt our sleep cycles, but I do know there's a lot of lucid dreamers um, doing the practice. They'll use caffeine in their wake back to bed, or guayusa. I do a technique with guayusa and whatnot, but for some people it does not work at all because they're wired and they're just completely awake and they can't do it. But you've used coffee, and I remember early days when we were chatting, you're like, yeah, I just have a bit of coffee before I go back in. And I'm like, you're able to do it, so it does work. It
Oh
does.
yeah, I abuse caffeine when I'm at work. I've pretty much trained myself to not fall right asleep, even on weekdays. I've kind of already trained myself to not fall right asleep, and that bites me in the butt on weekdays. But
Yeah.
yeah, I drink a lot of coffee at work, but the only time I drink coffee at home is during a wake back to bed. And if I'm feeling a little too amped, maybe I'll switch maybe to a sleepy time extra tea. um, you don't want to be going to sleep. You don't want to be laying back down with the jitters, because
No.
then you could be laying there for 3 hours then.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think with these sort of things too, everyone's, has a different constitution, so to speak, you know? So some people are really like caffeine sensitive, so it's not something that they could probably try out. But certainly for some, with the experimentation, it does help with the back to bed to achieve either lucidity or an out of body state.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're gonna hack your schedule up like I did, and I even kept the same schedule, even though me and Kelly only watched the movies for a year, I was having so much, I was having so many adventures with this subject that I kept that schedule going. So I don't have weekends. My weekends are just about the out of body experience. From the time I get off work on a Friday at 10 in the morning, well, as long as I'm asleep by 3 p.m., I can be up by between 10 and midnight. Then I lay back down, when I feel like I can. But yeah, you don't want to be laying down with the jitters.
Absolutely. And so your experience is so profound with the, visitations and the meetings of a deceased loved one with Julie. Has it changed the way you see reality? Has it changed the way you see relationships? I know we've talked about death and how, the Grim Reaper experiences have changed your view of death. How has this changed things for you?
It just amplified what I was already feeling. I used to have bad anxiety, and I just lived my physical life. And as soon as I started having out of body experiences, my anxiety went away. I can induce anxiety through caffeine, but that's for work. We save that for work. And but no more panic attacks. And that used to write my story. I mean, I used to live with anxiety to the point where my arm would go numb, and I'd be like hyperventilating for no reason. For no reason. Just it would just happen. I'd just get anxiety. That hasn't happened. This used to be like a weekly thing, sometimes a daily thing.
Wow,
Um, I was
really?
on. I don't know why. It was just the way I was thinking. But this whole subject matter, as soon as I turned 36 and had that one, instantly my anxiety was gone. No more anxiety. No more. Not for me. Not for years.
Wow.
And my appreciation for life has, not my life, but other people, life in general, plants and animals and people who need help, that kind of stuff, gets my attention. I started feeding all the neighborhood cats, and
You have like
that,
7 or 9.
huh?
7 or 9 that you have now.
We lost Torino a couple days ago. We're down to 4. We're down
Oh,
to 4. 2 stay inside. One, I just got litter box trained yesterday, so now 3 inside and 1 comes and goes. But you know, when you see life in this whole new way, and you have the opportunity to take in a cat, and it's like, well, my cat Yanko passed away, and I was like, okay, well, I can have another cat now. Yanko was old. I didn't want too many cats in here. Well, with Yanko out of the way, I was like, well, I had taken Torino, and Torino was all beat up. Did you see the pictures of that orange
yeah.
cat?
Cool
its
looking.
eye was screwed up. It had a hole in its throat. That was Torino. I took him in, and then shortly after that, I was like, how can I pick and choose? You know, Torino needed my help, but some of the other ones I'm just closer to. How can I pick and choose? And so I brought them all inside.
It's
Uh,
wonderful. So it's like, so the your empathy is increased, you think, and the
no,
anxiety is increased, empathy is increased through
I
these
had I had
experiences.
no empathy before that. None. I didn't care.
Wow.
You know,
And
someone
then
panhandling.
fear of death decreased as well, and then just the connectivity as well with the loss of Julie. Like, did it help with the grieving process and the bereavement to have
Oh
these?
yeah. Yeah, it took away the grieving process. Now I had a whole nother thing to deal with that was way more emotional than grieving. You know, I probably didn't look right for a long time. I even had to practice in times, you know, there were times just talking with my friends or something. Once in a while, I'll just mention, just casually, I'll bring up her name in conversation because it wasn't the grieving. It was that last couple of times I saw her, being able to see her like that was much better than the last time I saw her, which I saw her a month before she died. Now, when I met her, she was 74 pounds. That
Yeah.
last time I saw her before she died, she was skinnier than that. And her doctor already told her, look, you're at that point where when you go to sleep tonight, you're probably not going to wake up. The doctor couldn't give her nothing. He just told her load up on Ensure. It's like a drink you give the hospice patients, you know.
Wow.
It's like a high protein, high calorie. It tastes great too. Um, Vanilla. Its stuff tastes incredible. I love it. Once she got to the point where she was drug free and doing good, she gave me all the rest of her Ensure. That was gone in no time. um, so yeah, that last time I saw her, she was really frail and really skinny. And it was the summer in Florida. And I saw her at the flea market and she had a blanket wrapped around her. And it's hot. My clothes were sticking to me. And she had a blanket wrapped around her. And I mentioned I was looking for a truck. And her always being trying to be helpful. Oh, let me call my dad. Let me see if he'll sell you his truck. You know, he loves his truck. I was like, yeah, call him. She puts down her blanket and picks up her phone. And she was like a skeleton. She was always a skeleton, but this was worse.
I'm sorry to hear.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I didn't have to see her in that condition for long because the last couple of times, just totally erased that visual. So these
yeah.
experiences, it takes away the grieving. Now you've got something way more emotional to deal with, and it's so metaphysical and paranormal. You can't tell anyone, hey, and every 2 weeks, first she visited me, then I visited her, and then 2 weeks after that, well, right after her funeral, long story short, the company I work for, they hired a new guy, stuck him right next to me in the paint booth. I'm working side by side with this stranger for 2 weeks. At least 2 weeks. I'm still trying to find out what date it was, just so I can have all the math correct. You know, I still don't know what day it was. But about 2 weeks after he started, he came into work and said, "Hey guys, I blew the engine on my car. I'm not going to have a way to get back and forth." I said, "You know what, man? You're doing a good job." In fact, his nickname at the shop was Ray Jr. People at the shop were calling him Ray Jr. because he, he had something reminded me of him, you know? I didn't know what. So when he said he blew his engine, I was like, dude, I got an extra couch. We worked at the same factory, same hours, ride back and forth with me. I said, you won't be able to see your wife and kids. He didn't even live in Jacksonville. He was like way on the outskirts. And this is a big city.
Yeah.
Um, the first day, it was quiet. He stayed in the living room, texting his wife. I stayed back here in my office. And the second day, he started getting talkative, like to the point where he's right at my side and he's going through his phone. Hey, here was my first car. Here's my wife. Here's my kids. Here's my oldest. And before he showed me anymore, he said, "Hey, you want to see my ex?" That's a weird thing to ask someone. The guy had been married at that point like 7 or 8 years. And I was like, "Your ex?" "Yeah, sure." You know, I'm just humoring. I'm like, "Sure." And he pulls up this image on his cell phone. And it was a small image. It wasn't even the size of the screen. It was uploaded incorrectly at one point. And I kind of squinted. I was like, oh, well, it looked like a high school prom photo. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, man. Yeah, I couldn't really see her. And I had a cigar in my hand and I'm getting ready to walk outside because normally I don't smoke in here. This is a special occasion. And I'm getting ready to walk outside. I turned my back and he's right behind me. We're getting ready to walk outside and I froze. I was like, wait a minute, can I see that picture again? And he said, sure. And he was so proud of that picture. And it was like the universe was like saying, Ray, look, look, you know. And so I looked again and I'm squinting and I'm looking the best I can. And I was like, was her name Julie? And he had the most blank look on his face. He was like, yeah. I said her full name. And now he took a big step back away from me, pulled his phone away from me. And he's like, who the hell are you? You know, keep in mind, two strangers don't even know each other really, you know, outside of a little bit at work. We don't talk at work. It's so loud in the paint booth. You can say good morning for 5 minutes. And after that, the fans are on all day and we have headgear. We don't talk all day. I don't know the guy. So he's like, who the hell are you? And I'm like, well, she was my fiance in 2014. She lived in this house with me, this house that you're standing in, you know, she lived here with me. He's like, in 2014, how come I don't remember you? I said, well, if you ever on Facebook, before I got zapped by Facebook, my name wasn't my actual name. It was, I didn't go by my real name. I went by Wrong Way Ray, kind of like a demolition derby nickname. It stuck and it stuck for a lot of years. And I said, remember in 2014, her tagging someone named Wrong Way Ray? He's like, Wrong Way Ray, I remember that. He's like, you're Ray. I'm like, yeah, who are you? You know, your turn now. He's like, real proud. He's like, well, I'm baby daddy. I mean, I'm the baby's daddy. We were together in high school. We were engaged. And then that just fell apart. You know, they didn't stay together forever, obviously. But yeah, that was her fiance in her senior year. And most of the people that she met in her life were really bad on partying, you know, not in control of their own life. I do good. I wasn't really her style. She tried doing good. That's why her and I tried. She tried that with him too. So he and I had that in common. We both tried to rescue her from herself.
And then
So
you are years later working right next to him in the
yeah,
same place. And then you helped him out to stay at your place for a bit while his car was broken. And here he is in the house that you lived with Julie, and they had a child
yeah.
together. And they were together.
I needed someone to talk to because I wasn't friendly with her crowd. I didn't have anyone to really talk. Not, I didn't need to have someone to talk to, but it would have been good to talk to someone who knew her. You know, talk about the good times and everything. I met the one guy in this whole city that had the exact same experience as me. Neither one of us had anyone to talk to about it. I mean, who was he going to tell? His wife and kids? You know, he'd been married like almost 8 years at that point. So who was he going to tell? I didn't have no one to tell. Here we were, two strangers talking to the other person being the one person that we would need to talk to. Isn't that crazy? And
I love
you know,
it.
after her funeral, I remember even taking my boss aside and saying, hey, this is what happened this weekend. I might be looking a little out of sorts. If anyone says, hey, Ray's acting weird, I'm dealing with this. And she said, no problem. Well, when this happened, you know, she already knew what happened. That next day after that conversation with him, I was like, hey, guess what? You know that guy, Nate? Remember I've been letting him stay on my couch? Guess who he is? And I told her, and she knew enough about the situation. She about fell out of her chair. She said, get out of here. And she moved her chair back and everything. So it was bigger than just a coincidence. I was trying to see if this was like divine synchronicity. Was it sent from her? Because this helped two people, and this whole thing was tethered around her. And quite frankly, after this point, he nosedived at work. Not long after that, he got a car, he got transportation, but he just became really unreliable. Started doing a bad job at work. Now, he didn't make it. He didn't last there more than
Yeah.
a month and a half. He was gone before Christmas.
Wow. So transient, but then yet so profound too, with the synchronicity and the timing and the healing that came from it and everything is just absolutely phenomenal.
Every 2 weeks, another miracle based around this girl, you know? It's like, I was trying to move on. She just wouldn't let me go. That's almost what it seems like, but no, that was awesome. So
That's
I got a sign from the universe. I got 2 signs through metaphysics. And I know what mediums mean about how when you hear them, you don't question it. You just hear it and you don't judge it. I was getting that for 1 year to the date. On June 21st of that next year, it turned off. And I never got it again. But I swear I was hearing her all day long, every day for that first year. So it's like communication never ended.
Yeah, that's really interesting and probably also really helpful through your grieving process too. All of these things combined were probably such healing elements to your process of bereavement, right?
Yeah. Oh, I was glowing. I didn't look like I was glowing probably from anyone else's point of view, but I was glowing inside. I was so full of magic. You know, everything I see, it's like, what is impossible anymore? All these things I do that I would have laughed at and never believed. Um, no, now this is like part of my life. This is part of my experience. And you know, luckily I got to that point where I'm not here to convert skeptics. I can teach people how to do this for themselves. Converting skeptics ain't my deal. You know, um, I had my experience. My experience is my truth. We create our realities. I still don't know what the limits are on that because I keep hearing we create our reality. Since I got into metaphysics, we create our reality. I'm like, well, yeah, you want a good job, you go to college. You know, you want your car to keep running, change your oil. You know, common sense. But no, I think it goes deeper than that. Like the near-death experience, when people die on an operating table and they're brought back, initially they got what they thought they were going to get.
Mhm.
Death seems to be tailor-made for each of us to accept it easier. So I know what I'm going to see, but yeah, just everywhere I look is just what's impossible anymore. I don't know where that line ends anymore. I can no longer hear someone else's story and say that's nonsense. That can't happen. I can't say that anymore because I know what impossible feels like. I don't believe myself half the time. I'm the one that lived through it, and hearing myself talk about it, it's like nobody's ever gonna believe this. But
No, it's very powerful, and I certainly do believe in and honor your experiences. And thank you so much for sharing them because they are powerful. And like you said, they are your truth. They've they've shifted your consciousness. They've helped you through a hard time in your life as well, and they also moved you into some healing too. You know, healing you from anxiety, healing you from the fear of death, um, and
safe.
also speaking of healing, you've had some experiences too with healing in the
I
astral.
I have. I'm glad you mentioned that. I almost forgot about that. Now, the big one was I used to have this lump in my side under my right rib cage. Sometimes I can still feel it, but I mean, I had it for years, and this lump was getting bigger and tighter, and it was hurting. Just laying down on my back to try to induce one of these experiences, I'm laying there like, ow, ow. I still don't know what it is. I don't go to doctors, you know. I still don't know what it is, but it was getting to the point where I couldn't even lay still without it hurting. One time I get out of body and I'm getting ready to walk around my bed. And I took one look at my body in the bed and I actually said to myself, let's help the poor guy out. I didn't say I'm going to help myself. I said, let's help the poor guy out. And I came back, came around on the other side of the bed, put my hands over my stomach very instinctually. I had no game plan on doing this. This was just a spur of the moment thing. But before I started walking through walls and everything, I was like, well, wait. Let's see if we can't do something productive here. Let's see if I can't fix that. I just put my hands over my stomach and my stomach started to light up. And there was a white light, maybe 7 seconds. I just kind of said to myself, that's good. Stopped, walked away. I don't feel it no more. I have to really search for it now just to find it. I never went to a doctor. Yeah, there
Wow.
it is. There it is. I feel it. It's gotten smaller. It was getting bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where if I go to lift something at work, someone's like, "What? Why are you making that sound?" It's like, I don't know. I got some weird pain. That was it. After that moment, I never felt it again. Still really don't, unless one of my cats take a flying leap from the cat tower onto my stomach and knocks the wind out of me, then that surprises me. And then that does, I do feel it then. But it's not like a dull sitting here watching TV, ow, ow, ow kind of
It
thing.
shrunk and took away the pain.
Yeah, it shrunk and it took away the pain. And then just a few months ago, I was having back issues.
Oh,
And
right. Did you try with that too?
yeah, and this was like to the point where I couldn't even get my own socks on. I pulled my back. Mounting my own tires on the rims without a mounting machine. Sitting there taking pry bars, trying to get a tire off a rim, 4 tires. Yeah, halfway through, I moved just the wrong way and I pulled my back. And I was on vacation. That was just this summer. Um, and oh, it was getting really bad. I figured, well, let's try that vibrational state out. Vibrations are supposed to be healing. I don't consider myself a healer, but yeah, I got lucky that weekend that after I pulled my back, I was able to induce the vibrations. But this time, instead of getting out of body, when you get the vibrations shoot through you, you focus them on one part of your body. And I focused them on my lower back. After I came back, I was walking fine. I was back to normal. I was a lot better anyway. I was very functional. I could run. I was like, look at me. I can jump up and down. I could do jumping jacks. I could bend over and touch my toes. I couldn't get my socks on the day before.
Wow. So, two experiences where you've been out of body, where you directed with your intention energy towards two parts of you that needed a bit of healing or a bit of care. And when you were exuding energy towards them, could you feel energy coming out of your hands? What was the sensations? Was it tangible or was it just
It was just a
intention?
light show. It was just a light show. What I basically did was what Julie showed me about energy work. I barely put my hands over myself and I focused on that part of my stomach. That was really it. Intent and focus.
Reiki healing and Reiki masters, that's how they heal, is just by floating the hands above the area in which to. So sounds like you did
Is that a
some.
real? Is that real? Is that a real thing?
Yeah, it's called Reiki healing, and
I've heard of
people,
it.
yeah, Reiki masters, and I always like with my lucid dreaming practice, I always encourage people who work in the healing arts to try their practice in a lucid dream or astral, and you can see how powerful it is. So if you're a Reiki healer, if you do any kind of healing modalities, doing it in these liminal states or in these liminal realms, you can almost see the power a lot more than what it is. It becomes like superpower. And
Okay.
so through your intention, you just direct it and just do your art. I remember also once in a lucid dream I had someone showing me how to do yoga, and I'm not really a big yoga person, but I was doing yoga with this person. I could see the energy that it formed. This was in a lucid dream, and it was phenomenal. It was like iridescent, neon blue energy and light, and it was just flowing, flowing through and flowing outward. So there's something to be said about that. Um, the energy work and fascinating, so a lot of these experiences are just so great because um, continuing to experiment this way, like trying, especially with this healing practice, doing this in the astral
It's
is
life
phenomenal.
changing. It's life changing. I'm doing stuff I didn't know was ever possible. I'm doing stuff if I would have mentioned this to myself a long time ago, I would have laughed. I'd have been like, no, no, you finally went over over the cliff with drugs or something. This ain't normal. You know, there's no way I would have ever believed this. It probably even coming from my own mouth. It's miracles, you know. And look how many of religions are based on out of body experiences.
I know there's so many, and there's so many countless examples of, even great feats of science and creativity coming through the liminal realms of dreams, lucid dreams, and astral out of body experiences, hypnagogic states, hypnopompic states. I mean, it's phenomenal. There's so much to learn about us as human beings in terms of consciousness and what is consciousness and what is possible, and also the universe, the multiverse that we live in. There's just so much more to know. So I think having a spirit of adventure and being an explorer and just wanting to push the boundary with these things, not really caring what people think or say about you, or if science hasn't caught up to it. I say go for it, because it's brought such richness to your own life. It's healed you. It's also relieved you of anxiety and grief, and it's put a wonderment into your life, increased your empathy. It's fantastic, Ray. Your experiences are so powerful, and I hope that any of you listening to Ray's amazing journey with the out of body experiences will inspire you as well to look into it. And yeah, it was
I'm,
so good to talk to you, Ray.
but yeah, these experiences will change your life. I meant for my 30s to be peaceful and quiet and boring. I had enough adventure in my life. I was ready for predictability and boring. And this has been way more exciting than anything I've ever gotten into.
Well, thanks so much, Ray.
Thank you, Tree.